An older man was thrown out of a hotel due to his clothing, but it was too late when the mistake was discovered. Stanley, an older gentleman, was not permitted into the lobby of a 5-star hotel because neither his clothing nor his appearance corresponded to the norm of the other guests. But when he finally revealed his identity, no one could believe it. As they say, how we treat people, especially those we do not know, says a lot about our character. And if we're truly fair and intelligent people, we should behave accordingly. In today's moving story, that reminds us of the most important aspects of our communication with our fellow human beings. It's about Stanley's rejection. The first impression counts. An older and tired gentleman stopped on the sidewalk and looked at the 5-star hotel. He wore ordinary clothing and a pair of shoes that looked a bit worn out from frequent wear. So he walked through the automatic door and entered the immaculate lobby. It had a modern decor, padded seating, and a shiny floor that reflected the light. At the reception stood a stylishly dressed woman with impeccable posture and perfect makeup. With her elegant shoes, she stood next to Stanley and scrutinized him from head to toe. It took less than 2 seconds for her to have the impression that Stanley could not be one of their guests or clients. She thought he might need information or some other kind of help. It seemed as if his shoes were about to fall apart at any moment. In addition, he had large sweat stains under his arms and an unkempt beard that reinforced his sloppy appearance. The older man politely greeted the receptionist and asked for a room for the day. In the meantime, he took his old wallet out of his pocket, which contained only a credit card and a few documents. Nothing indicated that he could keep up with the other 5-star guests. The woman then waved him off and signaled to him that he didn't need to look any further. She told him that all the rooms were already occupied. Stanley put his wallet away and looked at the receptionist, whose name was Mariana, for a long time. He said, "Look, I've been through a lot to get here. I don't have the strength to look for accommodations elsewhere in the city. I'm sure you still have a few rooms available." Behind Mariana were indeed a series of room keys on the wall, showing all the vacancies available. Feeling cornered, Mariana thought it best to be honest with this man and explain the situation to him without losing her composure. "Please understand that this is a luxury hotel and not a place that everyone can afford. We have a good reputation in the city that we do not want to lose. That's why we try to maintain our level. You know what I mean, don't you?" The old man listened patiently to everything and then said, "You're wrong. I just need a room to rest. It can be a simple room with a bad view. It doesn't matter." When Mariana didn't give in, he asked to speak to the manager. But then the hotel director himself, named Howard, suddenly appeared. Mariana quickly explained the uncomfortable situation. Howard nodded to Stanley and informed him that there was surely a hotel within his price range a few streets away. When Stanley still refused to leave, he called in the security personnel, who grabbed the old man and dragged him toward the door. Halfway through, Howard instructed the security to stop and not only take Stanley through the main entrance, but also escort him out through a secret back door onto the street. Stanley continued to protest, saying that they were making a big mistake, but the guard only did what Howard had instructed him to do. As they walked through the hotel, they met Vera from the laundry room. She told them that they should stop dragging the old man disrespectfully behind them. Additionally, she wanted to know why they were going out through the back door. Is this really how we treat people in our company? A valuable new friendship. The security guard told her that she should just complain to her superior if something didn't suit her. Vera, on the other hand, said that the service area was responsible for that, and she would take care of the rest. She asked the old man for his name and offered him a headache pill. "Take some aspirin and you'll feel better soon," she suggested. Vera's shift was over and she was waiting for her husband to pick her up. In the meantime, 2 chambermaids appeared in the service area and spotted Vera with the disheveled man. They made fun of the two of them, to which Vera replied, Instead of mocking, you should get back to work." Stanley wasn't offended at all and even found the situation amusing. However, he also noticed that Vera was ashamed for the two chambermaids. The two maids left, laughing, and Vera explained that they had insulted her husband Christian several times before. She took a deep breath and explained that her husband Christian was physically disabled after losing his leg in a hit-and-run accident. Of course, Christian suffered greatly from the consequences of the terrible accident, but despite his despair, he was grateful to have survived. Christian's youth had been difficult, as he had never met his father and his mother had died of cancer when he was a teenager. After completing his studies, he started working. He was lucky to meet Vera, and with a lot of effort, they managed to make ends meet financially every month. The two live in a very small house on the outskirts of the city and have no children. Apart from the modest residence, their only valuable possession is a car that they could afford after many years of thrift and sacrifice. Christian always drove Vera to work, then went to his own employment, and was expected to arrive at any moment to pick Vera back up. Stanley accompanied Vera to the exit as she had invited him to meet her husband. That's what Stanley hadn't expected because he was very exhausted and hadn't yet resolved the situation with the hotel. Nonetheless, he accepted the invitation. When Christian arrived, the three of them got into the car and drove to the house on the outskirts of town. Vera's husband was a really nice guy and was happy about the friendly relationship between Vera and Stanley. For Christian to drive, it had been necessary to make the car handicap accessible. Throughout the entire drive, Christian had not complained once about his current life. There was a certain lightness in the air, and the only thing Christian said about his situation was that he had pain in his lumbar spine. But he didn't know if it was because of the accident or because he was sitting and driving all day. "I think I need to walk more again," he joked, and Stanley laughed. He realized he hadn't felt so free in the company of people he hardly knew in years. He managed to relax with Vera and had a wonderful conversation with both of them. The hours passed, and since Vera knew Stanley didn't have accommodation for the night, she invited him to stay with them. Stanley gratefully accepted the invitation as he could sleep on an old sofa in the living room. The next morning, he got up and tried to put on his shirt somewhat neatly. Vera offered to iron it, but he declined. Stanley only asked that the two of them would take him back to the hotel. Vera and he entered the hotel through the service area. She was afraid he might be rejected again, or that Howard might even call the police in the worst-case scenario. Mariana was talking to a woman named Leela, who was the manager of the place, at the reception desk. Today, Stanley looked even worse than yesterday. Therefore, Mariana urged him to leave the hotel again. When Leela observed this behavior, she paled. Stanley turned directly to Leela and asked, "How are you doing?" "Leela, I was just one step away from promoting you and making you the hotel manager. But these people here seem to have no idea who they're working for." Leela began to apologize to Stanley. When Mariana finally noticed that she was standing in front of the hotel owner, she began to apologize 1,000 times. Stanley said he tried to identify himself and pulled out his wallet with all the documents. He was wearing simple clothing because he volunteered at an animal shelter in the region once a month. Since he had forgotten his phone, he couldn't call a car. He decided to visit the hotel. He said the treatment he had received was unacceptable, and not because he was the hotel owner, but because one should generally consider one's fellow human beings. He also said he would have to overhaul everything, and there was no guarantee that the receptionist, hotel manager, and security personnel would keep their jobs. He also praised Vera's exemplary behavior, as she had shown a lot of tact in this situation. He'd found a trustworthy person in her. Mariana asked not to be sent away because she had realized her mistake. Stanley replied, "That's okay. But you have to do a 1-month internship in the service area and without nice clothes, expensive jewelry, or high heels." What do you think? How would you have reacted in Stanley's place? We look forward to hearing your opinion in the comments.